Thank you. Hi, good morning, everyone. I can see you all joining. Good morning, good morning. Chuffed to have you here. So I'm going to hand you over to Natalie, and I'm really excited to hear more about what she teaches with this method. She's going to give out some advice and break down the technique for you. She's also going to give you some exercises. So if you did want to try some stuff at home, then you can. She's asked that everybody, if you guys have a pen and paper nearby, or like your notes open on your phone, and you want to make some notes, then please do, because there are going to be practical advice bits that are given out to you, and it'd be good for you to come back to them and reference them later on. We are, however, also going to be recording this session, and we'll hopefully be we will reshare it again. So if there was anything that you missed and that you want to come back to later on, then you absolutely can. I would really love it if you could share this on your social media and tag us on Backstage and let us know if you've enjoyed it. If there's anything in particular you guys think would be useful for you to see and do and learn about during this time, then please let me know. I'm on hannah.williams@backstage.com, and you can just tweet us if you like. So I'm gonna just to let you all know, if you come into the room, if you could pop your video off, that would be amazing. I am, however, going to unmute Natalie somehow. This is the first one I've done, guys. Please forgive me.
Done.
Yay!
Hello, everybody. Okay, so welcome to Backstage.com, and welcome to a talk about Chubbuck. I'm really, really excited about this. So I'm just basically going to introduce myself, and then I'm going to go into what we do and how we do it. Can everyone hear me okay, just to check? Just want to make sure everyone can hear me. Wicked. So my name is Natalie Anson-Wright. Oh gosh, I've been coaching and teaching acting for almost 15 years now. That shows my age. And I came to the Chubbuck technique 7 years ago. I discovered it, which was, it was kind of introduced to me by a friend, and it was so, I was just like, what is this thing? It's so incredible. And that's kind of where my journey started with it all. But to begin with, I started out teaching drama and dance to young children. And then I went to University of Chichester and studied performing arts there. Shout out to any Chichester Chai people. I then started doing musical theatre jobs and acting jobs in fringe theatres, bigger theatres. And I kind of got the feeling that I was like, I love musical theatre, it's really, really fun, but the thing that I was most drawn to was straight acting for me. I just loved doing that and getting really into the role and digging deep. So I then started looking more into that kind of stuff. And as a result, I went over to New York, and I trained at the Lee Strasberg Theatre and Film Institute in New York. And if anybody knows anything about that, that's kind of method acting, which was an amazing experience. New York is an incredible city, and what they do there as well is just wonderful. So I trained there for a while, and mostly for me, the training that I got there, or the thing that really helped me, was a lot of the relaxation exercises, learning to find my own physicality as well, and to be comfortable in my own body. Instead of thinking that my body was a separate entity, it became just part of the tool base that I had. So that was a really, really important kind of transition for me, and movement-based and physical-based thing that happened for me whilst I was training out there. But it was when I came back and I really started looking into acting jobs and acting roles and studying whilst I was performing, that I then really discovered this book. And I'll show you the book. This is The Power of the Actor here. I call this my Bible. So I bought it a while ago, and it was a really weird time of my life, because my mum had just been diagnosed with cancer, and it was a very unusual type of cancer. She had cancer in her mouth, and when they discovered it, they realized that it was quite grave. It was going to be something that needed to be operated on very, very quickly. So we had very little time to kind of process all of that. And I was going to be spending a lot of time in a hospital looking after my mum, being with my mum. So I went to, I basically was like, what am I going to do? How am I going to sit around? What am I going to do while I'm waiting for the operation and waiting times and things like that? So I looked at my bookshelf, and it just so happened that this book jumped out at me, and I thought, that's weird. Why now? Why this book? But I took it as a kind of sign, like, okay, fine, I'll take that with me. Maybe I'll have a look at it. And it honestly was the most helpful thing to have read at that time in my life. It's what the technique kind of does is break down things very, very psychologically. It's all based on behavior science, and everything that it talks about is true to life, which is why it's so incredibly important and so incredibly amazing for acting. Because obviously, really and truly, when we're acting, we don't want to be acting, we want to be being. We just want to be humans that are going through these situations in real life, and therefore we're watching, like a fly on a wall, somebody's life, rather than watching something and going, oh yes, well, that person's acting out being in this particular situation. That's what great performances are. That's what makes great performances. It's something that we can all relate to because it's real, and it's something that we as humans can watch and identify with. So that's why this technique is so brilliant for both acting and for life purposes. But more than anything else, it is about empowerment. It is about taking those fears, those traumas, those pains that we go through in life, and using them to win, using them to overcome. And at the end of the day, when we're watching somebody overcome something, that's the most incredible performance ever. If we watch someone just trying to climb a molehill, we're not going to watch that. We're not going to be entertained by that. We're going to switch off very, very quickly. So if we're watching somebody climb Mount Everest, we're going to keep watching that. We're going to be entertained by that, and we're going to be so enthralled by that process and by how they keep getting these obstacles coming in their way, that they keep jumping in, and over and over and over, that they bounce over these obstacles and finally get to there, which get to the kind of the peak of the mountain, which therefore is a much bigger journey, a much harder journey, and something that we as an audience member can get behind and root for that person. If they're just climbing a molehill, we're like, okay, sure, great, well done, I did that yesterday. So that's kind of the difference, and that's why we use these fears and these traumas and these pains to commandeer those mountains. So I'm going to get a little bit more into that later on. I just want to say, first and foremost, guys, please stay connected. Please keep sending little chats. I just noticed that somebody asked what the book was called. It's called The Power of the Actor. It's by Ivana Chubbuck. So The Power of the Actor. So yeah, please keep throwing chats and questions at me. I love connecting, I love relationships, and later on I'm going to be talking about, I'm going to be answering your questions with a big Q&A, so please keep throwing those out. That would be really, really helpful. So now I'm going to talk a little bit more about the Chubbuck technique itself. So essentially, this is the book. And in the book, we have 12 steps. What's interesting about the 12 steps is that's kind of resonates a little bit with what we might think of as Alcoholics Anonymous or rehab. That's because this kind of thing works in that respect. So the idea is that these are 12 steps to rehab our way to being a better actor. And that sounds a bit cheesy, so I'm not going to go too much into that, but that is kind of the idea about it. So there are 12 steps, but I'm going to be focusing mainly on the first few steps. So the first couple of steps are objective based. Okay, so having an objective is like having something that we're trying to build towards. So we've got, this is our goal and we're going towards that. If we don't have an aim or somewhere to want to go, what's the point? Okay, so we must have somewhere to go, somewhere to try and build towards. So there's always an overall objective with everything that we do. So for example, if I'm talking about my life, let's say that my overall objective right now is to be successful. Okay, so everything I do in life is building towards being successful. Even when I wake up in the morning, I go, what should I do? Oh, I'm going to make my bed. That's the first thing I'm going to do. Why? Because it makes me seem like a successful person, which is such a weird thing to say, but that is kind of the idea behind it. We start thinking, oh, okay, what shall I do now? Oh, I'm going to go have breakfast, because that makes me, that's the next thing that I need to do in order to have a successful day. Oh, what shall I have for breakfast? Well, I could have a chopped piece of chocolate cake, which, I really want to do, but might not be the best thing to do and might not be the most ideal thing to have. So then maybe I'll go, okay, maybe I'll have like granola and yogurt today, because I know that that's a healthier option and that's a better thing for me to be able to have in order to make sure that I am more successful. These are obviously really minor and really kind of silly examples, but this is kind of the idea that everything we do in life builds towards something that we want and towards a goal that we have. So if my kind of goal in life is to be loved, then maybe I make the bed not because I want to feel successful, but because I want my partner to come home and see the bed has been made and think, yeah, this is great. She's made the bed for me. I feel love, and he'll love me back. That's just another version of that. And of course, that's such a small, silly version, but I'm trying to throw out these silly examples in order for us to kind of understand, if that makes sense. But please, if anybody's got any other examples or want other different examples, then please say. So those are kind of the idea behind the objectives. So the whole objective, the overall objective, is when we get a film, is from the start of the film to the end of the film. And then the idea is that the objective is taking us, it's the through line throughout the whole film. So what is it that my character or me as a person is trying to get from A to B, from the start to the finish? Okay, so that's the overall objective. And those overall objectives are always based on the really, really basic needs. They're based entirely on those basic things. So because this is kind of behavior science based, very much in the psychology realm of things, we actually try and use Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So I've just made like a really basic version of this here. So you can see kind of those basic needs that we're building towards. So to begin with, we've got the psychological needs, which are really, really basic, which are kind of like water, air, food, sleep, shelter, clothing. Those are the really basic things. So for example, in Hunger Games, these were the things that we were looking at, that the character was desperately needing. Then we go up and we've got the safety-based needs, okay? So we've got personal security, property, employment, health. These are kind of the needs that at the moment that I'm sure you guys probably agree with, but for me personally, this has been kind of my priority right now with everything that's been going on. And it's really interesting how my needs have gone to this place so quickly. And just watching people on the street, I don't know if anybody's been watching other people, but seeing, people on the street and going, wow, these are the things that are really kind of connecting to people and really seem to be getting them, which is great. So then we have love, which is obviously relationships, family, friendships, all of that stuff. So those are the really next most basic needs. And then we go to power. And then last but not least, we've got self-actualization or purpose. So kind of the reason why I kind of throw that out there is because everything's kind of based on we're building on each thing. So if I've got the basic needs, okay, the next thing I'm going to want is the next need up, which is love, right? Okay. If I've got love, the next thing I'm going to want is power, is money, is knowledge, is status, respect. Okay. If I've got that, if I've got all of those things, then I'm going to now want self-actualization or a higher purpose. I mean, we only have to look at, for example, Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie when they were married. They had all those things. They had all the basic needs. They had love. They had power. They had status. They had respect. So what did they go and do? They went and did things to get a higher purpose. Okay, they built a family by adopting children from who needed help, who were and they wanted to try and help others. They did lots of things. They made films that were about really, really deep and difficult topics in order to try and help people and get more of an understanding about this stuff. So this is what I'm trying to say, is that everybody builds on their needs. And once we've got these needs, we go to the next thing, and we go to the next thing, we go to the next thing. However, generally, when we're looking at acting, when we're looking at scripts, most of the people that we're going to be looking at are going to be looking at love or power. The vast majority of the time, the characters that we play are either going to be love-based or they're going to be power-based, which is super fun and quite easy in terms of going, okay, which one's which? Now, the way we tell that is by looking at the character, breaking it down and going, okay, but what is driving this person? And that's when we look at those overall objectives. So, for example, if we're looking at an overall objective that is love-based, we're going to see what is the character trying to build towards by the end. Are they literally trying to get a partner throughout the whole film? Are they trying to find their soulmate throughout the whole film? Is that what they're doing? And that's how we kind of find those objectives, and we look out for that and we go, okay, this is what they're aiming for, so this is where they're based, and that's their overall objective. If, however, they're trying to get power, they're trying to get status, they're trying to get power over somebody else, then of course they're going to be a power-based character, and their overall objective is going to be power-based. So once we've got our overall objective in place, then we're going to look at the scene objective, and we're going to look at each individual smaller scene. So obviously we've got the whole film, and we've got our overall objective. So for example, in my life, my overall objective is to be successful, let's say. And each of my individual scenes, for example, making my bed in the morning, having breakfast, making the coffee, those are my individual scenes. They're boring scenes, to say the least. I wouldn't ever want to write that into a script or play those scenes necessarily, but those are my individual scenes of my daily routine, my daily life. But in the film script, for example, those individual scenes, okay, they need an objective. So what is that objective for that scene? Okay, and that is the thing that's going to drive them towards getting their overall. So whatever your individual scene objective is, it has to fit in with the through line of the overall. Okay, because obviously if it didn't, it wouldn't make sense. It would kind of be juxtaposing. So if I'm making my bed in the morning, the reason behind me making my bed is usually because, oh, I feel successful. I feel like I'm doing the right thing. I feel like a powerful person by doing this, because I'm doing the right thing, because I've read in one of these books somewhere that that's what successful people do, if that makes sense. So that's why I do it. Okay. But again, I might be making my bed from a love-based purpose, from a love-based position, which would then mean that I'm making it in a slightly different way. So everything I do, so every single scene that I look at has to have an objective, and it's got to be working towards that. Okay, so that's essentially kind of the idea behind these objectives. And by having these objectives, it gives us the power to push and to win those objectives. Okay, that's the whole idea. So whatever it is that I have, if I set myself this goal, everything I do is building towards this goal. It's just that obstacles and things get in the way of me getting that goal. So for example, being successful means I've got to be successful in my auditions. I've got to try and impress casting directors. I've got to impress directors. So all of those things are kind of now obstacles in the way of me getting my goal. And those are the things that create emotions. Those are the things that create the feelings. Not, oh, in this scene, I'm going to be sad. No, it's in this scene, I want to reach success. But this guy has come in and told me he doesn't think I'm very good. So that hurts me because that's stopping me from reaching my goal, from winning my objective. So that's the thing that causes my emotional response. Not, oh, because I have to feel sad about him saying that, but because it's stopping me from achieving what I want to achieve. So that's how it works. And that's why it's so good, this technique, because it's not about trying to elicit false emotions. It's about those emotions coming to us naturally because we cannot achieve what we want to achieve. So with that in mind, we're going to try now, we will try a exercise all together. So we're all going to try the objective to get you to love me, okay? Because that's quite a simple, easy one that actually is always something that comes up with a lot of scenes, a lot of scripts, a lot of characters. The vast majority of us all want to be loved. I can't really think of anybody that doesn't want to be loved. And that's the same and rings entirely true for all characters as well. So we're going to use the objective, I want to be loved. And we're going to basically do an exercise which isn't in the book actually, but this is a common therapeutic exercise that people use and something that Ivana uses all the time in order to access emotions and in order to access the truth and reality of what we really want. And that's called the informational emotional diary. So for this, I'm going to say, if you can make sure you've got A4 lined paper, is the best to use. It's really, really helpful. And a pen. Again, a pen is so much better than a pencil because it kind of writes across the page a lot easier. A pencil usually drags, so it's a lot easier to let the pen kind of flow across that lined paper. And the lines help us just kind of guides the writing, as it were. So it's much easier with lined paper. But make sure it's plain, make sure there's nothing on there, because we don't want to be distracted by anything that's written already. We want it to be plain. We want a blank sheet, a blank slate ready to go. Okay, so basically I'm going to use this tool, this exercise, to access who I want to be loved by the most. Interesting. Why? Because what I was talking about earlier about the obstacles getting in the way, trying to climb over mountains rather than molehills. If I'm trying to get, let's say, my partner to love me, who I know loves me already, I'm not that worried about our relationship, you know, why would I use him in my particular version? Okay. So who is it that actually I don't feel loved by? Who is the person that right now I need that love from? And remember, this changes in our day-to-day lives because things change. Maybe tomorrow I could have had a huge row with my partner, and tomorrow I'm thinking, uh-oh, maybe we're not in a good place. So maybe it is him I need to use because I'm worried that things aren't working out well. Self-isolating with someone can be tense. But aside from that, we're trying to find the person that is going to affect us the most, the person that is going to be our mountain to getting that love. Now, more often than not, this is parents, because our parental love is the most important thing. Some people have brilliant relationships with their parents, and that's great. Some people don't. But actually, what I found through coaching and teaching so many years is that even people who believe, yeah, my relationship with my mum and dad are fine, they're absolutely chill, actually underneath it, our inner child, you know, the one, the really kind of that selfish, which is okay, by the way. It is okay and it is good to be selfish. That's important. And that inner child is there for a reason. And we need to allow that inner child to come out when we're acting, because the inner child is the thing that is going to climb the mountains. But that inner child is the one that might be going, yeah, but actually, so-and-so, you preferred my brother or sister to me, or actually, I wish that you'd given me more attention, or maybe less attention. Maybe I needed you to allow me to be more free rather than my parents actually pushing me all the time. So everybody's stuff is different, bear that in mind, but everybody has their stuff, and everybody needs to be loved. That is, that's across the board. Everybody wants to be loved. So we're trying to access who that person is right now, in order to be loved, if that makes sense. So who is that person that we most want to be loved by? So we're going to use this technique, which is all about kind of getting rid of this ego at the front and trying to access the subconscious at the back here. So I'm using this pen as almost a gateway. So I'm going to start by writing, I need you to love me, and see who comes up. I'm just going to allow it to come up. I'm not going to dictate. I'm not going to say it's going to be this person or that person. I'm just going to allow it to come up and see who. Because, and continue writing and see the why. Now, often we might be shocked by who it comes up as, but also the why. Why do I want that person to love me? Now, the idea is that the pen is kind of magic and does the writing for me. I'm not trying to make the pen do the work for me. I just want it to kind of start writing, which is a difficult task. So the first thing I try and do is try and clear my mind. However you want to do that, that's up to you. I teach people that really like physical stuff, so they might do like 10 push-ups and count backwards. Some people prefer kind of meditative stuff, so they might close their eyes and imagine a white light going through their body. So whatever works for you in terms of clearing your mind, do that. That's really important. But I just want you to get your paper, if you're willing to do this now, or if not, just kind of write down, this is what you're going to do. It's completely blank. I'm not going to write anything, but I'm going to clear my brain, clear my head. And then when I'm ready, I'm going to write, I need you to love me, see who comes up, because, and just keep writing. Now, if nobody comes up, I'm just going to get rid of that page and start again. If nobody comes up there, I'm going to get rid of that page and start again. Yes, that seems like a lot of wasted paper, but guys, I'm always writing notes, so I can always reuse that paper for other notes and stuff like that at another time. But what we really want to make sure is that we are not being guided by something that's been written previously. We want everything to be fresh. We want it to be a clean slate. So once we've written it, if nothing has come up, then I'm going to take that off and I'm going to start again. I'm going to do a really quick version for you to see what I'm doing. I'm going to do it super quick because it can take a long time. I would recommend when you first do it, doing a whole page. Now I'm used to it, I can do just a paragraph or two. But I'm just going to try and show you very quickly. Bear in mind that it's going to look really messy, by the way, because I'm not worrying about grammar or anything like that. I'm just going for it. I'm just letting the pen write, and it's going to be bad. Okay. Okay, so I did a really, really super quick version, but as you can see here, not legible at all. Okay, you cannot read this. I can, because it's my writing and I understand myself, but this is not for anyone else to read. Okay, so this is the informational emotional diary exercise for anybody who's just joined. Okay, so I'm literally just, it's a therapeutic tool. I'm literally just writing and letting the pen go with the flow. So what's come up for me is my dad, and I really need him to love me. The reason why I need him to love me right now is because I'm finding him quite difficult to talk to at the moment, because he seems to be, he's very much patronizing me a lot at the moment, and it feels like he's not supporting me in what I'm doing. And I'm just trying really hard to get him to understand and support me and be behind everything that I'm doing. There is more to it than that with our relationship, but that's the thing that right now is really, really resonating with me. So if I were to do a scene now that was to get somebody to love me, I would use my dad as a substitution. So rather than me just acting with the person in front of me who I've probably got no history with, probably never met, and definitely I very much doubt I want them to love me. I might do, but I very much doubt it. So I'm going to use my dad, my father, as a substitution. And I'm going to kind of use the person in front of me, and I'm going to kind of superimpose my father's face on that actor in front of me. So now, and it could be male or female, it doesn't matter what the scene is or who the character is. The idea is that this is the person I want to love me the most. So this is the person that I'm going to use. And as a result, I get a more grounded, real, and really, really deep and difficult version of this scene. Because if my dad, and if that character doesn't give me the love that I need, it's going to have more of a result on me. It's going to hurt more. And thus, as a result, I get a bigger, better, more profound performance. I hope that makes sense in terms of using the tools, putting those things together, using the substitution, and how it all works in that respect. Obviously, if you're working with somebody who, for example, let's say my objective is to get somebody to like me, and I'm in a scene with somebody who, I don't know, is like my fantasy, let's say Zac Efron. Don't judge me for that, I know you all are. But say I'm in a scene with Zac Efron and all I want is for him to like me, I'm going to be like, yeah, okay, I'm going to use this guy because he's somebody who's I've always fancied and always wanted to like me. So of course I'm going to use that person. That makes sense. Or if I'm in a scene with Meryl Streep and my objective is to get somebody to be impressed by me, is to get that person to be impressed by me, of course I'm going to use Meryl Streep because she's an amazing actress. Of course I want her to be impressed by me. So if the person that I'm acting with can elicit those kind of performances or those realistic feelings from me, yes, use that person. But really and truly, most of the time, we're not going to be in those situations. So I am going to want to use a substitution from my real life, who I have a whole history with, who I have past experience with, who is going to elicit those big drives and obstacles for me, which are then going to create that bigger, more tangible performance for me. I'm just trying to think. I think there's one other thing that I kind of that I wanted to touch on with that, and I'm trying to think if I can remember what it was. I might have to come back to it. But just to kind of recap, so the way that we, with those tools, we start with the overall objective, knowing what the overall drive is. What is that character? What is it that character wants? And then we find the scene objective, each individual scene, and how they go about trying to get it. That was what I wanted to add. Haha, I knew I'd get there. What I wanted to add was every time we word an objective, we always word it as to get you. So rather than me just going, I want to be loved, I always word it as to get you to love me. That way I'm acting with the person that I'm working with rather than just doing a performance at them. So I'm now actively trying to get that person that I'm working with to love me rather than going, I just want to be loved. I hope that makes sense. So now we're trying to actually elicit communication and elicit performances and elicit feelings and emotions and reactions from that person. So each time, everything I do is trying to get a reaction, which then causes me to start another action. So everything is to get you to do this, to get you to love me, to get my power back from you, for example, if we're using the power version. I hope that makes sense. And then, so once we've got those objectives, then we can add a substitution, somebody from our real life to overlay whoever that we're working with in order to make that, that performance, that relationship more dynamic. So those are the kind of the first 3 tools, and actually the 4 tools, because obviously those obstacles, which is the 4th tool, comes into that interplay in terms of, for example, in my example with my father, there's so many obstacles between me and my father and me getting the love from my father, where he, for example, is quite closed off and isn't particularly open to sharing love in the same way that maybe I would want to receive that love. So that is one very natural obstacle that comes into play, as well as the obstacles for the character and in the dialogue that comes into play as well. So now I'm going to move on a little bit into the fear-based part of the kind of technique. And we're going to do another exercise, which is a really, really, really good tool. So obviously, talking about fears and traumas and past pains can be quite difficult. It can be something that most people don't want to access. But as an actor, I think it's super, super important for us to be open and honest about those things and to be able to access those things. Those things are acting gold dust. Never deny yourself that gold, okay? Because if you can access them and use them to drive your performance, you are going to have an incredible performance. So any time I now go through something traumatic or difficult, I almost say to myself, my goodness me, this is gold dust for me. I can use this in my art, which is a weird way to think, but this is kind of how Ivana's technique has helped me in my real life as well, to find that positivity, to find that silver lining and go, actually, I can use this in my performance. And by using it in my performance, it kind of makes it in my real life easier and better, because I'm now using that pain, that trauma, to empower me to do a better performance. And as a result, or to power me, to overcome, to win my objective. And by doing that, I feel empowered now. I'm like, wow, I've used that fear to win my goal. Not to sit in it and stew in it and sit in my kind of pigsty of sadness going, oh no, poor me. I've gone, okay, this has happened to me. Now I'm going to use it to drive myself to win, to achieve my goal, rather than sitting in it going, poor me. And that's true to life, right? That's so fundamentally important to life, for us to go, okay, yeah, this happened, but now I'm going to go and I'm going to use it to drive me to win this goal. And aren't those the people we want to hang out with as well? You know, we all have those friends who sit there and they go, this happened to me and then this happened, I just feel really sorry for myself. And you're like, yeah, I'm so sorry for you. Cool. And it's kind of awkward and you don't know what to say or how to deal with it. And then we've got our other friends who maybe have gone through trauma or gone through something difficult, and then they go, yeah, so this happened, but I'm going to do this now to try and overcome, or try and do this to make it better. And you're like, yeah, you go, and you're going to cheerlead that person all the way, because you're like, yeah, I can get behind you because you're using it to do something. And those are the people that we want to watch on screen. Okay, we want to watch those people who have gone through something and go, you know what? I'm going to keep on battling through no matter what to get to the end. And those are the characters, those are the people that we always want to watch. Those are the things that if you read any kind of screenwriting book from Hollywood, every single character will always have something that has stopped them in their tracks of getting what they desire, and they will fight to overcome. And literally, those are the stories that are being churned out in Hollywood, because those are the things that we want to watch. Those are the things that when we go to the cinema, we want to see that happening. We don't want to see someone just sitting there crying, feeling sorry for themselves. Okay, so that's the most important thing that I want to say. Just all those fears, all those things that you have, they are your gold dust. Use them. Don't be afraid to access them. And also that everybody's stuff is really important. Everybody's pain is different. Everybody's trauma is different, but it is theirs, and it is not for us to judge. We should never ever judge somebody else's pain, nor a character's pain. And that's really important as well, because we can get all sorts of characters. We could play a serial killer. We can't judge them, because that character in real life doesn't judge themselves. They genuinely think that they have every right to do what they're doing. So we have to make sure that we never ever judge anybody else's pain, anybody else's trauma, and never ever judging a character, because everybody is coming from their place, from their reality. Okay, so with that in mind, I want us to try a fear exercise. Okay, so this is quite a tough one. You might want to just listen to what I'm saying now, and then try it later on in your own time, or you might want to try it as you go. So the common misconception with fear is that we kind of, when we're in that situation, say for example somebody's got a gun to our head, and we feel like, oh, there's a monster or a zombie there, we feel like we're going to have loads and loads of thoughts and this overriding kind of sense of everything, you know, the world and our whole life flashes before us. That's not actually necessarily true. Normally what happens is one thing will come up and will just override all our senses and everything. So it's usually one fear about one thing that we can't do if we were to die today. So for example, if I were to die today, maybe it's I'll never get married. Maybe it's I'll never have children. Maybe it's I won't be able to protect my children if I've already got children. So maybe it's that I can't protect my mom or dad. So it's always one specific area that kind of gets us, and we're like, oh, if I die, I can't do that. I can't stop that from happening. So with that in mind, the first starting point of our fear exercise is we're going to take our pen and paper again. And this is one that I can do. I can take here and take my informational emotional diary and write on the back. And I'm going to write, if I were to die today, and write down a fear. But I'm going to write about 10 to 15 versions of those. So that's quite a lot. I'm not going to do that right now because that's going to take some time. In fact, I actually did my homework, and I did this just before I started the class. It's important to try and do it as fresh as possible because those things can change. So just before I started the class, I did my list, if I were to die today, and wrote out my list of all the things. I've done 14 here, of what I would feel like I wouldn't be able to achieve or I wouldn't do if I were to die today. So that might be, for example, if I were to die today, I would never own a home. If I were to die today, I would never be a mother. If I were to die today, I'd never get married. It might be all of those things. It might be smaller things. If I were to die today, I may never hug my mum again. If I were to die today, I would never hold my partner in my arms. So it can be as small or as big as you want. It's what matters to you. So you write your list, and each time write, if I were to die today, and then whatever it is. So you write that out. Now, the easiest way to work out which one, because we're just going to focus on one. So the easiest way to do that is to read them out to yourself out loud. Okay. If you do it in your head, it's one thing, but when you read it out loud, you can honestly hear the difference in your voice. So the one that I did that really struck me and really got to me was, if I were to die today, I'd never hold my partner in my arms again. Now, even as I'm saying that, I can feel my voice changing and I can feel it hitting me. Now, that's a weird one. I've never actually written that before in my life, but for some reason today, that's the thing that hit me. So going with that, being able to hold my partner in my arms, I would then take that fear and that thought, and the first step is to imagine the successful version of that. So, for example, me holding my partner in my arms, maybe it's the day after our wedding and we're holding each other and we're really happy. Okay, but if we were thinking about something else, if it was, I would never have a child, maybe I'm holding my child, my unborn child, and I'm holding it in my room. Maybe I'm talking about being able to protect my mum and dad. Okay, so maybe I might be thinking about holding my mum and dad or providing for them or helping them in any way. But whatever it is, I'm going to think of the successful, the really positive version of that, the overriding, like, this is it. This is exactly what I wanted. This is the vision that I had of it being successful, of this moment being perfect. And I want you to hold that in your brain, hold that in your mind, and just see it and get that overwhelming sense of happiness that this has happened, that you've got this. And from there, you're now going to see it being pulled away from you. Like a hand has come and grabbed that vision, that version, and is pulling it away. And you can see it just reversing out of your life. And you're left with nothing but black, nothing but darkness. And now you're falling into a hole, and it's getting further and further away, and it's gone. And now you're lying in this hole of darkness. And a lid falls over, a coffin lid, leaving you without that thought. And in your head, you repeat, I have to survive to keep this from happening. I have to survive to keep this from happening. I have to survive to keep this from happening. I have to survive to keep this from happening. And that is how you elicit those real fears, those organic fears. So already I can feel my stomach full of, not butterflies, but you know when it gets really heavy, that's how it feels for me. I can already feel myself kind of short of breath, and I'm a little bit shaky. And that's just from talking through that whole exercise, but also visualizing that moment and that going away. It's a difficult thing to do, obviously, via camera, with lots and lots of people. And obviously, that's something you might want to try at home alone, but it's a really, really good tool. And if you do it just before you go on set or just before you're about to start a scene, it will stay with you. It will just be there, deep within the core. And throughout the whole scene, throughout the whole filming, that period, just in your head you can repeat, I have to survive to keep this from happening. I have to survive to keep this from happening. And every time you say it, it will remind you that you've got to stay alive in order to stop that from happening. And as a result, you get those organic fear moments and those organic feelings. I hope that makes sense. I hope that's something that you can use and potentially have as part of your tool base now. So in terms of the book, that's one of the exercises that's at the end. So the book at the beginning, the first half of the book has 12 tools. It has 12 steps. I haven't gone through all 12 because we could be here all day. I don't think we want to do that. But each step is really important and really, really, really helpful. So it's definitely worth, please, 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 getting hold of this book and reading those steps and going through each one. With your script, I literally write in pencil on my script and make sure that each tool has been looked at and has been accessed throughout my script. It is a 12-step tool program, and there's a reason behind it. It's because it literally makes every single thing fall into place. The last step, though, is so helpful, but it's really difficult. And the last step is to let go. Now, obviously in life, we have objectives and we have these people, relationships that we have history with and stuff, but we don't hold on to those objectives actively in conversations. We don't go, right, I need to make sure that I'm doing this in order to make you love me. We just are doing it. So yes, we go through the steps, we write all those things down, we make sure that we access every single tool and we've done it, but then let it go and trust that the work has done its job. Because at the end of the day, we've got to just be, and we've got to react to the person that's in front of us. Okay, because that person, whatever they're saying, is the thing that's going to get us to overcome those obstacles and the thing that's going to elicit those emotions. Okay, so yes, we are doing those tools, but the most important thing at the end of the day is to let it all go. And I think that's important for life as well. Yes, we can go through, we can make sure we've done this, we've done that, we can make sure that we've ticked off everything on our to-do list, we can make sure that we're doing exercise, that we've made our bed in order to be successful, that I've eaten my bowl of granola and yogurt to have a successful breakfast or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, life is hard. I've just seen someone's comment that says, life is hard though. Life is hard, it's tough, okay? So we've got to just let it go, yeah? And just allow it to breathe, just like life. And I think that's super important. So on that note, I hope I've given you loads to work with and loads to look at. Please, please, please get the book, have a read, because it's super, super brilliant. But I'm now going to hand over to a Q&A. So I'm going to have a look at some of the questions. And Hannah, if there's anything that you've seen that's been particularly big, please point it out to me. So I'm going to have a look at some of these questions.
Thank you so much. Oh my God, that was really amazing. Um,
Oh,
I just learned so much. So thank you so much. I've seen the comments that have come through have been so fantastic. Andre's asking if you're London based, Natalie.
I am London based, yes. So I'm London based. I coach all ages privately, but I actually run, in terms of the classes, the youth division of the classes. So I teach 12 to 18, or actually a little bit older, 12 as well. But I also coach all ages in terms of private coaching as well. So yeah.
Cool. So we had a question earlier on that was from Mark Middleton, and he said, yes, performance is important. How do you desensitize yourself afterwards? This could potentially be pretty damaging psychologically if you keep reliving hurts and needs.
That's a really, really good question. And what's interesting about this technique is that because we're overcoming those fears, it kind of, it doesn't stay with us. So without going too much into my own stuff, I actually have had, you know, my own past traumas and my own things that I use when I'm doing my own scenes, when I'm doing my own acting. And when I first started using the technique, I was worried about accessing that. But what's interesting is when I do access it, I'm accessing it in order to usually get my power back, is the objective that I'm using. And by absolutely chasing and pushing for that goal to get my power back, it helps me to get my power back from that pain, from that trauma. And so by the end, by reaching that goal, by reaching that peak, I'm like, I feel like, yeah, I've won over this thing that happened to me. And so as a result, it's not actually as painful as one would think, because I'm using it to fire me to win. And as a result, I feel empowered over that trauma, over that pain, because I've used it to win. Now, I honestly am with you in terms of it can stay with me, and it does. Those things can stay, and you know, and I've felt that, and for probably an hour or so afterwards, sometimes for me, if I've really accessed that stuff, it will stay with me. Meditation is really helpful for me personally. Other people have different things. Actually, fitness and exercise, doing, you know, just anything, going for a walk, going for a run, those kind of things also really help me as well. Having downtime, even if you just make a hot bath and sit in the hot bath and just allow that stuff to go through you. Again, that's part of the letting go. Those can really help as well. So I really understand those concerns and worries in terms of it staying with you. However, I think by accessing it and processing it in terms of winning, it really helps empower us over that stuff. But I know it can stay with us, but that's part of the letting go as well. And just being aware that that stuff happens, you know, stuff like that happens all the time. Get a cushion, hold, cry. Honestly, there's nothing more important than being able to just have a moment and allow yourself to mourn those things. Super important. Have a cushion and give it a hug. Let it out. You're allowed to. That is super important. And I recommend highly to everybody.
So Melina asked earlier, so the scene is fantastic for working on scenes when you're working on a script. But what if you have a much quicker turnaround with audition scenes? So do you have any tips for like very quickly being able to, I think this is what you mean, I'm paraphrasing, but very quickly access an emotion from a page to acting out within, you know.
Really good question. And actually this can be used for improvisation as well. So I would literally look at the first 3 tools, which is the overall objective. If you can find that, if you have access to the whole film script, then read the whole thing, because that is important to always know the start to the finish, because you could look at one scene and you could think it's power based, but actually the whole show or the whole film is actually a love based thing. So make sure if you have got access to that, to make sure you've read that and seen that, because that's super important. So getting the overall objective down, then look at the scene objective and see, okay, what is it they're trying to get in this scene? What is it that they are literally searching for to achieve, to successfully get by the end of this scene? And does that then coincide with that through line of that overall objective? And then if, or very, I think quite importantly, particularly if you're going to be working with someone that you've never met before, in an audition room with a reader or another actor, try and get that substitution. So using that informational emotional diary to give you that information, to find out who it is that you can use to access that and be able to then superimpose that substitution on the person that you're working with later on. So those 3 tools are kind of the main ones, which is why those are the ones that I spoke about mostly today. And then you can start looking at adding the other stuff. But if you're doing a quick turnaround, those 3 tools, you can throw them in there. But also with an improvisation, or with an improvised scene, having an objective with that scene. Okay, so yeah, okay, I'm improvising and I've been given the word, I don't know, sausage, because often that happens, it's just a random word. But I can then give myself an objective with the character that's coming into the room or coming into the scene with me, that I want that person to like me, or that I want to get my power over that person. And automatically it's giving me somewhere to go within that scene, even though I don't know what the words are or how I'm going to do it. It's now giving me a way or a through line to try and get something by the end of that scene.
Yeah, great. And then I'm just going to give you one more question, and then Jay Perkins, I don't know what your first name is, but they've asked, what early mistakes did you make when you were practicing this? I'm imagining that's what they mean. And
what early mistakes I made? Interesting. Okay, yeah.
And how did you, or how do you overcome plateaus in doing this?
Okay, interesting question. Early mistakes. I think in terms of mistakes with the technique would be more based on choice, and going, is this the right choice to be making? Which is actually something that we're always coming up against, like choice, and is this the right thing, blah, blah, blah. But I think the most important thing is whatever choice you make, you go at it 100%. So if I've got a scene and I've gone, okay, I'm going to play this in a love based realm rather than a power based realm, or I'm going to do it in this way rather than this way, or any choice that you make, as long as you're committing to it 100%, it doesn't matter. And that's really, really important in terms of going into casting rooms, because you could have gone, right, I've got this script, I know what I'm doing, yeah, I'm going to do this, boom, I've got it. And you go in, you do the scene, you're like, yeah, I nailed that, I've got this. And then they go, actually, I was thinking the character's more like this. You're like, no, I got it wrong, I did it wrong. And oh gosh, the number of times I've had students kind of say similar things like that, like, oh, but we've worked on it like this, and then they said this, and I'm like, they're testing you. They're testing you to see that you can do it like that, or that you can take direction. So bear that in mind, that they're probably testing you to see if you can take the direction. But the other thing is going, okay, cool. Well, I made a different choice from what they thought it was, but at least I'm committing to it 100%. And then whatever choice they've given you and said, actually try this, go, yeah, sure, commit to that 100%. Yeah. And as long as you're doing that, we're like, we don't care what choice you made. It's the fact that you go for it no matter what. Because we want to watch those people do that. We want to watch those people literally commit 100%. Because actually, most of the time in real life, we don't commit 100% to things that we want, right? We're like, oh, we do. Oh, but maybe I won't do that. Oh, I really want to do. We're all a bit flimsy kind of in real life. But in acting or in performances, when we watch stuff, we want to see someone fully committing, because that's what we want to really do in real life.
Great. Amazing. Was there anything that you wanted to say in summary?
Yeah, so I just want to say, aside from the Chubbuck technique and all of that, I just want to say kind of one thing to everybody, and it's like one kind of tool, one exercise that I've been working on with everybody in all my acting classes and privates, is trying to find kind of the silver lining with everything at the moment, and the kind of, with younger ones, I call it the unfortunately fortunately game, and going, okay, so this has happened, but what can I do to make it better? How can I use this to make things better? So one example that, kind of that we were using earlier, where I was saying like pain and everything is your gold dust. Yes, we're going through this really difficult time, and there is no denying that. But use this as your gold dust for when you get that zombie thriller film, or when you're working on something where you have to be in a situation where you're scared and you feel isolated. Use this. Yeah, this is your gold dust. But also we can use other things. We can, anything that's going on in your life that feels difficult, try and find that silver lining, try and find that fortunately.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to Natalie for
You're
doing
welcome.
this. It's been incredible, and I'm sure that you've all learned loads. There's loads of thank yous coming up there in the chat, which is lush.
Yeah. Thank you for coming and joining me. I'm so happy that so many people joined in and were part of it. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I just wanted to actually say, if anybody's got any questions, or they want to talk to me or ask anything, or go, what was that? Please feel free to email me or connect with me. What I'll do is, in the chat in a moment, I'll just add my email address, so anyone, or I'll put my social media and stuff, so you guys can contact me and get in touch, because I'm more than happy to ask.
Amazing.
Sorry.
We have recorded this as well, so I'm not too sure how it's going to be sent out afterwards, but I'm sure that maybe we'll do a summary article or something similar, and it'll go on social media and things, because I think it's really handy for people to come back to these exercises later on. Yeah. And yeah, if you've enjoyed it, guys, please tag us. We're on Instagram, which is @BackstageCast, and we love to see all your feedback. And if you have any ideas for other things that you'd love to have a seminar on, and then we'd love to see that on Twitter. We're @Backstage. We've also got a really great slate of Q&As and other seminars which are happening today. So we've got Steph, who's going to be working us through a workout this morning, which is next. We've also got a talk on Instagram today with a casting director, Daryl Eisenberg, a forum chat with casting associate Carly Fomelant. She's American and I'm in the UK, so I'm not familiar with Carly, but she's worked on some amazing things. And then later on tonight, we've got Matt Bomer, who is star of The Sinner, which is awesome Netflix program, if you guys haven't seen that. And he's going to be taking an Instagram Q&A later on as well. So we've got loads of stuff coming up. We've got loads of stuff which is general for everybody, because obviously Backstage is international. But we have got some great UK-based people as well, from Curtis Brown and Rose Wick, Steve Caston, and CDG members, and loads of advice and pieces coming through to you to try and inspire everybody in this minging time, to keep motivated and learn more about what we're doing, and hopefully it'll help some of you. Thank you so much. Natalie, did you want to give any more info out, your Instagram or anything like that?
Yeah, so if you want to follow me, so I'm @Natalie Anson on Instagram and Twitter, and Natalie Anson-Wright on Instagram, sorry. I've also got a YouTube, an Instagram and Twitter feed for my Chubbuck Youth classes. So that's Chubbuck Youth UK. Check out the website, chubbuckyouthuk.com. please come and, come check us out, come say hello. I'm currently doing coronavirus coaching discounts, because obviously I know that in these difficult times, it's really difficult, particularly for people in performing arts in this industry. So I'm really trying to help people out in terms of that as well. So please get in contact, get in touch. I've just put my email in the chat as well. So if you want to drop me a line, ask any questions, feel free. Anywhere in the world. I've just seen someone from Canada.
Yeah. Germany, Netherlands, Australia.
Drop me a line, say hello from wherever you are. That's amazing. NYC, yeah, I love Australia as well, brilliant. So that's amazing. From Italy as well, this is amazing. So yeah, please drop me an email, drop me a line, add me. I'm here. Please come check me out. I'd love to chat to you all.
We've even got a North Wales there as well, so
brilliant.
Shemai, because South Wales. Thank you from me, and thank you from Backstage, and there's loads of stuff going on, so keep engaged with us, and we will see you very soon. Thank you, guys.
Amazing. Bye. Thank you. Bye. Bye.